Good morning, brothers and sisters. How's it going? Well, if this video makes it, I haven't made one in a while, but they hadn't been letting me post for some time. So if this one makes it, cool. If it doesn't, probably won't be trying this again. Anyway, wanted to do more of a wordly video on what I think is going on, my perspective, ideas, whatever you want to call it. And lots gone on in the last week, last month, last year, last hour. It's obvious that things are changing faster than people expected, but that was going to happen anyway. Didn't matter which way it went. It's pretty cool though if you are conservative, Christian, God-fearing in some way or shape or form, then you see this for good. And if you're opposite, if you're like anti-American, then I guess you see this as bad. Well, I'm just going to go over some of the things I believe. As far as my last Trump video about the second administration, pretty much got the date wrong, but if you go back, everything else that was stated in that was accurate, and I'll try to be accurate in this one. It's like you really don't know when you do this until after the matter, but thank God I'm able to, speak the truth and see clearly most of the time. All right, so I have a few chapters to go through, and I'll try to go through this quickly. And here we go. We'll start with President Trump. Okay, I did the world's most powerful man last year and stuff like that. That video didn't get posted. Said some stuff that's probably controversial. When I do this, it's for the Hebrew year, so we're almost at the end of it. We're like in the 10th month right now. So Trump's power, he's been the most powerful man for the last 10 months. And he will continue to be for the next 2 months easily. And for the first time, it looks as if we actually have a contender that will be a incumbent. He will continue to be the world's most powerful man if everything keeps going as it is right now. This is great. I mean, if you're an American and you want these things to happen, there's always, when you deal with the world, there's going to be the darkness with the light, because, the only true light is Elohim, God, and he's the only one who's 100%. Apart from him, you don't have 100%. But man, if, the closer you can get, the better, and we're getting pretty close, so there's darkness everywhere. You can't be in power without dirt, whatever that saying means to different individuals. It's true though, and whatever I said in the past about the presidency is true, but it's just a great thing that we can move forward in a direction that is more conservative for the nation, which is better. That's how you build a nation. The liberal policies of leftism won't work. If you want to be liberal, that to be free, yeah, hey, right on, speak your mind, but to try to destroy someone else's reality because your feelings are hurt, that's retarded, like willful retardation. And here you finally get a president who's had enough of that, and the power structure that surrounds him is also on board with the idea of having a great America, making it powerful. And it doesn't matter how you feel about this. This is an American empire. And the president is got to do what he has to do to make sure that the empire is functional and strong and working for our interests, the American interests. If you're not into that, if you're not an American, well, then I don't know what to say. But if you live in this country and you want to have a strong America, well, you want a strong leadership. And we haven't seen strong leadership for quite some time. And here, not only do we have strong leadership, but the leaders have picked strong deputies to carry out the will of the executive, which is awesome because, again, it looks, the appearances, everybody's on board, and, it takes time to see who's for real. And as you can tell, this guy right here is being groomed for presidency. I mean, if the Trump administration carries forward with all the things that they're saying, and he can get through 4 years of greatness, then this guy's, it's going to be hard to not have him as the next president. So we'll see what happens. President Trump, it's pretty cool when he's out there holding weapons. I do remember he did an executive order to get rid of bump stocks, which was unconstitutional in his first term. And, so you got to remember these things. Yes, you can be critical of your leaders because they will make mistakes. But he's seen the mistakes he made that upset the people. He's going to play his game, the art of the deal and all that. So that means there will be compromise in some situations. But it seems that he's more on board with the God-fearing man and woman, the Christian, the ones who want to bear arms, legally. It's at this point in time, you have your champion. Where it goes, we'll see. Because I heard things about Pam Bondi wanting to take away weapons and all that. But see, people change when they see that their nation's about to be destroyed. The men and women who will stand up and fight for this nation, well, you got to let them have the ability to do what has to get done. Here's another one. Just checking out a gun. I'd like to actually see this man shoot some stuff with some real Americans. That'd be a good photo op, video, whatever. So we have had presidents in the past, and it doesn't matter what you say. Even when they talk, they're gonna lie. Or they might say something they don't know what they're saying, or they have to win the crowd. But apart from all that, doesn't matter. Just like JFK and Abraham Lincoln, George Washington. I mean, even though these were statesmen, their love for the nation was real. Their love for the American idea was real, and you can't do that without American people. So just remember that they know they need great Americans. And he represents an administration that is at war with a bunch of rats, if you will. And it's kind of cool because this man has got all kinds of Americans praying for him, standing for him, just, hey man, we're going to fight for you. And I mean, for the first time, it looks like he's alone here. But see that sword? That sword, Americans, the American spirit, represents the American spirit. You, your children, your future. I mean, that's the sword he's carrying. Now you have a man who's wielding it with his own ideas, but if the people get together and there's a strong enough consensus, he's going to swing when you tell him to. That's the thing that is relevant now, and it's becoming more imminent. And again, even though that sword might represent you and I, he has his own head, and that head might be listening to influences outside of Washington, Israel, Vatican, I don't know, some dark place up there in the north, who knows. But still, at the end of the day, he's got to make a decision, he's got to sign this, the things will get done, and it's really awesome because we're being allowed to see. And even when they don't tell us what's going on, they almost tell you by not telling you, by giving you the crumbs, and they put it in such a way where if you have the ability to spend the time, you can see the greater picture. But this picture, I don't even think there is a master plan, like a total one. They're just on the way, master plans to get to a master plan, to make it so that you can have a master plan that can actually be carried out. So there's all the fixing that has to go on, like, firing people, get rid of just things that don't matter anymore. And it's the right way to go. All right, the cabinet. All right, let's go. So the first cabinet, I read real quick. I'm just going to tell you what I read real fast. George Washington, the first American president, actually created this executive cabinet to help with the Federalists. So we were a Federalist kind of government first. That's the way it was in the Constitution, however you want to put that. The first drafts and all, I'm saying this real rapidly because you people probably already know your history. But it's kind of cool because Thomas Jefferson, the first Secretary of State, Hendrik Knox, the first Secretary of War, John Adams, first Vice President, George Washington, first President of the United States, and Alexander Hamilton, the first Treasurer. So that was our federal government. One, two, three, four, five. A hand, 5 fingers, with the thumb, George Washington. And they had the grip of the American government. That was our original government. And it's pretty cool when you look at it. I mean, just like how they're shrinking the size of how many 4-star generals, you don't need however many we had at, yesterday or the day before. Getting rid of those and shrinking that and creating a stronger force is a better idea from what I understand. So here we are with the current cabinet. This is a web of the structure. And so the president, I mean, even if he's done or gone or asleep, you have these heads of state and then their deputies, and then those deputies, and then all the other people that get the functioning part of the government working in the direction of the president. So these departments have important allocations to what they do for you and I. Here's just a little bit of history. So, the last department's the Homeland Security in 2002. But I found it interesting that the president, at his will, can change the powers of Marco Rubio, he's the Secretary of State, but President Trump can say, well, these are now your authorities. I'm investing this in you, or I'm taking this away. All throughout, the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Veteran Affairs, Secretary of Energy. I mean, these are the secretaries, they have their agenda, but the president has the ability to change their agenda, to set it, to tell them, to fire them, all that kind of stuff. That's a lot of power. And then when you give these people that power, you're entrusting them to go and carry the will. So they've already stated they're doing the will of the American people. They voted for these objectives, and they are being carried out. The great thing is, if you go back in history, when they did this, it was slow. It was not forthcoming. And it's exciting now because they're really letting you taste, they touch, feel. Here you have a president that wants to give you a hug and at the same time go out there and kick butt for you. So there's a real good reason why, the people love this guy. And at the same time, the anti-Americans, they hate him because he's destroying the communist, socialist, Marxist, Leninist, anti-Americanist ideologies that are plaguing this nation. All right, let's go to Iran, China, Russia. So China, great nation. Iran, great nation. And Russia, great nation. They all have long history. Not China. China's history is very short. Red China is actually an American, German, European invention. The Red China wouldn't even exist today if it wasn't for the Rothschilds. Go check that out yourself. China, the greatness of China cannot be overstated. They are the wonders that have been embedded in them are something that you can always is biblical, no joke. Iran, their history is one of the oldest. I mean, you could go back to Mount Ararat and, anything that's north of Iran, and just to know the history of those places and the history of what Iran has to do in the future, with the Arabs, even though they claim to be Persian, anyway, it's not, it's kind of like the American spirit. There is a spirit out there in what they call the Middle East. It's really the Near East. And it's something that has to happen, like Armageddon. They will be gathered to fight us sometime in the future. When I say us, I mean, the West or the North, or however you want to put it. It's a fighting force, and it doesn't matter that their warriors aren't very talented. A jihadist, I mean, if a woman will go walk up to you and blow her and her baby up, that's pretty hardcore stuff. You talk about tier one. Imagine the tier one woman with a bomb strapped to her pregnant belly. That's some serious stuff. Russia, the Russian spirit, it's, even though they're authoritarian, it's very centralized. So their people don't have a great sense of freedom. I think a lot of Russians, if they lived in the United States, they'd prefer it here. But the greatness, and they have a great leader, Putin. He, you can't argue. He was one of the greatest leaders not too long ago, but not right now. And he's done so much for his nation. He's actually look at the borders of Russia. They've increased. You know, I'm sure that's what President Trump wants to do for the United States, but Russia actually did it. They're kicking butt. If you try to take it away from them, they will blow you up. Doesn't matter who you are, including the United States at this time. Doesn't mean the United States won't defeat them in the future, but it'd be better if we were allies. Like if the United States and Russia were a team, then the relevance of the European Union becomes nothing. If the United States and Russia wanted to, they could take over, subject the EU and China, or just Asia in, whole. That's, I don't know, maybe that's wicked thinking, but if you're an emperor and you're building your empire and you need to work with another emperor, then, you consolidate power and that's how you wield it. That's my idea. Anyway, these three nations as a force, at this time, like today, it's not that great, but in the future, given the right opportunities, scary stuff. These leaders, Xi Jinping, if you know his history, I've only known a little bit. Like they claim that he grew up as a poor guy, and they show his house and he can walk it, all that kind of stuff. Putin, the KGB colonel, who burnt the documents and proved his loyalty, and then you have this Ayatollah, this Islamic religious leader, and he's more Western than people want to believe. I think this guy is more controlled than any of these. I don't know yet, but he hasn't shown that he's making his own decisions. I better be careful what I say there. Just like this guy. He's nothing. The North Korea, it's just a proxy of Russia. If you knew how they do the history of the slave trade that they do with the Koreans to go and build their stuff, it's just old Russian history. He knows how to build an empire. It's just he doesn't have the money or manpower. And it's just things are in his way right now. We'll see what happens. But the Russians, their history is cool. I think the United States would get along with Russians. But on the political side and when the geopolitical, when they're taking over stuff, well, if you're an American, you want the American to win. And if you're a Russian, you probably want the Russians to win. So... But again, we'll see, there can be no true peace. They are the competitors, adversaries, antagonists, and destroyers. So this is just what we have to deal with. And if they ever aligned, if the old Soviet bloc ever was to be built again, they would rule. If China, Iran, and Russia actually were a united force, the NATO would lose, seriously, only because of the spirit of things. But Russia, China, and Iran at this time, have you seen them exercise that power? Even with all of their programming and AI and all that kind of stuff, it just doesn't matter yet. That could change tomorrow. But right now, the United States is still number one. If and I think the Trump administration is trying to keep it that way. So to sear it so that whoever is going to vie for second place is either on board with the American agenda or no longer matters. That's nation building. I'd call it empire building, because Russia, they're an empire. China, they're an empire. Iran. And when they say they have most of the stuff you hear on the news is lies. That's just how it is. All right. The end of DEI, this diversity, inclusion, equity stuff is so anti-American, is so anti-life, so anti-God. It's, if you're a Christian, it's anti-Christ. These companies, you have to remember them, what they did, what they tried to do. And BlackRock, you can go there, Vanguard, this stuff trickles down. Follow the money, and now that Americans are against this, now they're against this. So Remember these, because these companies will always be weak. It's the leadership, it's the people. I mean, if they bent that way, that means they'll bend that way again. So take note, and hey, why not, if you're an industrialist, go build your own beer company. Go build your own car. Go build your own tractor. Isn't that what the Americans are supposed to do? Forget about these large companies. I know that Trump wants to bring in the large, and they want to have Costco's everywhere, but that's not America. We're better than that. And if you allow this to go too far, the end result is you're just going to have large corporations telling little companies what to do. Well, that's not the American way. The American way is the little guy has his chance, We're not a socialist country where the oligarchs say all. Even though, it might seem that way, these unions only have so much power, and the people can make change. Yeah, I hear that even CEOs in Silicon Valley here in California are so happy about this. I don't know how many, but I think little by little, as you see the leftists realizing, hey, maybe the right wasn't so bad. Maybe these MSNBC and all these other horrible news outlets they've been being brainwashed by had them brainwashed. They're kind of like, you know what? It isn't that bad. The Trump administration. So what if they're firing people that don't want to work? They want people that do want to work. They want people that want to be great. So if you want to be great, you're on it. If you want to be mediocre or retarded, yeah, you're panicking. Because the retards, their day's gone, man. It's time to be awesome. So I don't know if this is real or anything, but there's people like this, like literally down the street. I have a neighbor like that. Seriously, I kid you not. They're on fentanyl and speed and stuff, and they're crazy, and then they're mad that the Americans are happy. They can't stand seeing an American flag. They don't want to, they're anti-God in so many ways. And you might see them calm, but then this is how their spirit is. I've seen some people that are okay, then they see something that just triggers them. Like, boom, they don't have any control. I've seen conservatives, get triggered by some stuff, but it's usually some horrible thing, like some guy that wants to rape your little child, and you're like, no, you can't do that. But these guys are like, hey, God bless you. Would you like some free food? And he's like, no, don't bless me. It's... I'm in San Bernardino County, so yeah, there's... I've seen so many people just trying to find a way to escape, and, I've met homeless that don't do drugs. They, at one time that was a real thing, but now the homeless, it seems like they're trying to, exterminate them with fentanyl. And oh, man, so be careful. See, you never know. That old lady down the street, she might take an axe, and you just don't know. So don't underestimate any of these leftists when they go nuts. You just don't know how far they're willing to go. All right. Let's see. The greatness of the United States and its people. I just threw this up because there was the original American flag. It looks pretty British, right? I mean, we are speaking English, we have common law, we have the maritime law, and got the Vatican going there. So, like Britain, they copied the Vatican. And, it's just, if you know your history about that, I'm not going to go through it right now. And then here, that kind of looks like the EU thing, right? American again. So, you're going through all these things. I mean, who knows? We might get some more stars here pretty soon. But when you look at the American flag of the United States, I wouldn't be so mad if we created a new one that was truly all American, because this is still European. If you know the history, this is very European. And I know about, a lot of us have European ancestry, but still, if we're supposed to be separate from everyone else, then we should really have our own flag. That might be too hardcore. I mean, you'd have the conservatives like, no, because they worship this flag. And, well, too bad for you, man. If that's how you want to go, that's cool. That's my opinion. And hey, if the United States, because one day the United States of America will end, And if this is how they end, then that's okay. That's just the way it was meant to be. But I thought before we get there, we'd have our own flag that was actually un-European. All right. In the golden age of the United States, that's a hard one to talk about because we're not there yet and we won't be there. I'll tell you what, they could say, this is my opinion again, there will never be a golden age of the United States of America as long as there's a Federal Reserve note. If we are still using the Federal Reserve's money, there can be no golden age of the United States of America. It's just words and an idea and brainwashing, mind control. The only way the United States can have a golden age is if it has its own currency, an American treasury note, that is an American bank that's centralized in the U.S., has no affiliation to the Rothschilds, to the Vatican, to Europe, to Davos. It doesn't matter. American money by American people, by an American government, period. So that would mean the end of the Federal Reserve. It has to end. So as long as there is a Federal Reserve, there can be no American golden age. Yeah, that is not my opinion. And, this is real great. If you're an American, you live here in the United States, and while we still have time, forget about Europe, forget about Asia, forget about Africa, China, all the other. Why don't you go visit your own country? A long time ago, I wanted to do this, Go check out. I mean, have you been to California? There's some really cool places. Have you been to New York? There's some really cool places. Have you been to Seattle? Besides all the leftists, go get some fish. Have you been to, pick another one. It's like something weird. I don't know, the Smoky Mountains, the Garden of the Gods in Colorado, Niagara Falls or something. Well, there's a lot of cool things in Texas, man. If I go to Texas, I'm going to want to eat barbecue at their top 5 barbecue places, Anyway, go and rediscover the United States of America. Take your children and go figure out what it is that America. I mean, they wanted to make it so we couldn't even check out our own country. That was the Europeans, man. Why would you protect people who wanted to put you in a box? Let Europe go. We are the USA. The Europeans can bow to the USA, not the other way around. And anyway, I don't even have to worry about that one. That's alright, don't worry, but it's happening, man. It's like this, little by little, the President Trump and his administration, for what it's worth, is making the United States more attractive, not just to investors, not to just to to grow the economy. That stuff's important, but that is not the most important part. If you're into money and finances and all that, yeah, that's critical. But you have to have a place where you can raise your family and just have a sense of, a sense of belonging, a sense of greatness, a sense of accomplishment. And the United States can make it so that, man, if you do this to your man, woman, child, the things that we can achieve here, you just can't do it anywhere else.